still also up in the air. 3 teams tied at the top. The Thunder, the Timberwolves, Nuggets all still have a path to get the 1 seed, but they all need help to get there. OKC is currently the king of the mountain via tiebreakers, that is. And so to help clarify all of the chaos that's going on right now in the NBA, here's Malika Andrews and the Countdown crew with more. Malika, take it away.
Thank you so very much. Stephen A. Smith, Michael Wilbon, Kendrick Perkins here alongside me. And gentlemen, it is the first time ever in the history of the NBA, Stephen A. Smith, that through 81 games, 3 teams at the top of the conference, they are tied, and it all comes down to today. We know that Denver would be the most dangerous 1 seed, but who needs this the most?
I think Oklahoma City needs it the most.
Okay.
The reason I'm of that mindset is that they're obviously relatively young and to some degree undersized in terms of their girth. And we all know that when playoff basketball arrives, it tends to slow a touch. Physicality is elevated, and as a result, you're required to do a bit more physically. And obviously being at home with that adrenaline flowing, feeding off of your youth and your youthful exuberance, I think that there's no question that Oklahoma City would be that team. Minnesota is an elite defensive team. Cat is back. Of course, Rudy Gobert is there. They're different. You look at Denver, they're the reigning defending NBA champions. They can handle it. The answer to that question to me would be Oklahoma City.
I'm going with the Minnesota Timberwolves. They need the number 1 seed. Why they need it is because if they get it, they're going to the Western Conference Finals, right? They get the 2 seed or the 3 seed, they're facing Denver in the second round. You want to avoid Denver. You want to get to the conference finals if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they could do it. I have the confidence. My confidence level is sky high when it comes down to them competing against all the other teams in the West. They have an elite perimeter defense. You look at Anthony Edwards, he's 10th in the league, opponent's field goal percentage. Jay McDaniels, he's 4th in the league, opponent's field goal percentage. Mike Conley, old school Mike Conley, is 31st in the league in opponent's field goal percentage. They're 6th in the league in offense. They're going to defend. They're going to make you uncomfortable. And they have Rudy Gobert down there anchoring the defense. If they get the number 1 seed, the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to the Western Conference Finals, and you could book it.
Stephen A. is going to say we're teaming up on him on this side of the set because I'm going to go with Minnesota, too.
He's got his new suit. He's feeling confident over here. He's feeling good.
No, it just looks new, but I feel you.
It's Minnesota only because I don't think Oklahoma City is ready to beat Denver yet. We talk about the youth, and Stephen A. described Oklahoma City perfectly. I believe in misery. Misery has to come first before you ascend in the NBA playoffs. Period. Like, who's won without misery ever? Russell, Magic, Tim Duncan, like, end of list. That's it. All right, so you got to have some. So Minnesota's had, I think, enough. But here's the thing. If they can play games 5 and 7 at home, they're not beating Denver, like Perk said, having to play 5 and 7 in Denver. But if they have those games at home if necessary, I think Minnesota could do this. They came into this weekend, 11 and 6 without Cat, with a guy who's not even being mentioned as MVP, even though he should be on the top line for that discussion. And Ant-Man?
Right.
Minnesota's the answer,
They both agreed with me without even realizing it, but we don't have time to get into this because we got to go back to Sports Center. I will deal with them both once countdown begins.
I don't know what's a better teaser than that. We'll see you at the...
Well, it is the last day of the NBA regular seasons. There's still 15 to 20 playoff seeds yet to be determined. Look, the number 1 seed out west still up for grabs. Thunder, Timberwolves, Nuggets all tied at 56 and 25 on the season. And according to Elias, first time that 3 teams in the same conference were tied for the best record through 81 games. And still at stake is the 2 seed out east. Here are some of the easiest paths for each team. Bucks 2 seed with the win. The Knicks 2 seed with the win and a Bucks loss. Cavs are the 2 seed with the win and a Bucks loss and a Knicks loss as well. And there are plenty of scenarios involving 8 through 10 seeds in the West as well. You got the Lakers, they lead the Kings, Warriors by a game, but they don't own either tiebreaker. They get the 8 seed with the win. Kings get a win with a 3-way tiebreaker if all 3 teams finish with the same record. So with that, let's bring in our NBA reporter, Kendra Andrews, in here into Sports Center. So many different scenarios, especially when you look at Golden State. I mean, they can go all the way from 10 to 8. What are you hearing inside that Golden State facility as it pertains to their game as they get ready to face the Jazz?
Yeah, Brian, I mean, the Warriors would love to move into that 8 seed, get 2 opportunities to win the one game they need to move into the playoffs. And they were actually joking the other night, maybe the 8 seed is better for us than the 7, and the 10 seed would be better than the 9 just because of how well the Warriors have played on the road versus at home. But that was, of course, a joke. After Friday's loss, Steph Curry said, yes, it would be great to get into the 8 seed, but I don't care a lot about that right now. Instead, he is emphasizing the need to just focus on how well they have to play overall. He said, quote, we just want to get into a playoff series. However we get there, however we get it done, there is a lot of confidence that we can beat anybody on any given night, and we have to hold on to that. But Brian, Steph is listed as questionable for today's game, as is Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Chris Paul, and Jonathan Kuminga, and Gary Payton II is already listed as out. So it's going to be up to the Warriors' much younger bench unit to get this win today against the depleted Utah Jazz team.
Well, I guess the good news for Golden State is the Warriors have won 9 of their last 11 games. Kendra Andrews, thank you very much.
Bottom of the hour, Sports Center. Back to
Thank you, Scott. We'll check back in Augusta in just a little bit. But in the meantime, it's the last day of the NBA regular season, and there are still 15 of the 20 playoff seeds yet to be determined. Number 1 seed out west still up for grabs. Thunder, T-Wolves, and Nuggets all tied at 56 and 25 on the season. According to Elias, this is the first time that 3 teams in the same conference were tied for the best record through 81 games. Also, still at stake is the 2 seed in the East. Some of the easiest paths for each team include the Bucks, 2 seed with a win. Knicks, 2 seed with a win and a Bucks loss. And then the Cavs, 2 seed with a win and a Bucks loss and a Knicks loss. And then plenty of scenarios involving the 8 through 10 seeds in the West as well. Lakers lead the Kings and Warriors by 1 game, but don't own either tiebreaker. They get the 8th seed with a win. The Kings will win the 3-way tiebreaker if all 3 teams finish with the same record. It's a lot to digest on a Sunday. Nonetheless, to create a little bit of clarity with all this chaos, let's bring in our NBA reporter, Dave McMenamin. And so, Dave, the Lakers are in New Orleans this afternoon to face the Pelicans in the season finale. What are you hearing inside the Los Angeles locker room as LeBron and company try and maintain that 8 seed?
Well, Shay, if you saw that game on Friday in Memphis against a Grizzlies team that was so depleted, missing 13 players, the Lakers still went 41 minutes for LeBron James and 43 minutes for Anthony Davis. And I asked Darvin Ham about that. He said, everybody knows what time of year it is. We need to give everything we have, put it to the center of the table to try to sell out to win all of these games. And certainly you don't plan on playing those guys that heavy minutes against that type of opponent, but they needed the win to put themselves in a position potentially to be in the 7-8 game with a win against New Orleans Pelicans today. LeBron James said he'll be ready for Sunday, even though he played those heavy minutes and even with the early start today. Meanwhile, Darvin Ham also is having assistant coaches not just prep for the game in front of them. Like, obviously there's been a coach assigned to scout the Pelicans for today, but he also has assistant coaches watching other games around them. So they are also simultaneously preparing for a playing scenario against Phoenix, a playing scenario against the Golden State Warriors, a playing scenario against the Sacramento Kings. So they kind of have 1 foot in each the play-in tournament and the regular season as we head into Sunday.
Interesting. Well, the thing to remember here, Lakers avoid that 9-10 situation if they get a win today, which is the most important. Remember, you can watch Lakers and Pelicans later today, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN.
10th national title.
That season over, the NBA's regular season done today with so much still at stake. Like the number 1 seed in the West still up for grabs. It's between the Thunder, T-Wolves, and Nuggets, all tied at a 56-25 record on the year. Now, according to Elias, this is the first time that 3 teams in the same conference through 81 games were all tied for the best record in that respective conference. Also still at stake, out east, the 2 seed. Now, the Bucks, they are it with the win. The Knicks, they're the 2 seed with the win and a Bucks loss. And it's simple math at this point. Cavaliers, they get the 2 seed with a win and a Bucks loss and a Knicks loss. Also, plenty of scenarios involving the play-in round out west. The Lakers lead the Kings in dubs by a game and can clinch the 8 seed with the win. The Warriors could still end up with the 8 seed if the Lakers and Kings both lose. Kendra Andrews with the latest on how Golden State is approaching today's pivotal regular season finale.
Warriors coach Steve Kerr said he is much more interested in their ability to be ready for any playoff series next week rather than securing a particular seed. And with that in mind, he said it's likely that some of his main players will rest today against Utah. On Friday, Stephen Curry said he wasn't feeling fatigue and he wants to do everything he can to help put his team in the best possible position. But that final decision won't be up to him. Now, regardless of where the Warriors end up seated, they are confident that they can make a postseason push. Curry said, quote, "We just want to get to a playoff series. However we get there, however we get it done. There is a lot of confidence